she's allowed millions of people to come into our country, many of these people totally unchecked, totally unvetted. Many of these people came into our country, think of this, from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums. And, Brian, there's many terrorists coming in. If they want to fix the border, they don't need a bill. The President of the United States, which is what I did. I didn't have a bill to close the border. I closed the border. I had the safest border. I had the least drugs coming into our country in 38 years. I had the least, you have the human traffickers are horrible, and they traffic in children and they traffic in women, mostly women. But I had the lowest number of, we went after them with a vengeance.
How is it even possible that just 4 years, nearly 20 million people have illegally crossed the border into America? Maybe it's because Kamala Harris insisted on giving refugees access to the welfare system, or because deportation and border controls are practically non-exist anymore. Or perhaps it's the countless invitations she sent out to the world saying, "Come on in, we've got room and we need you." And now, suddenly, the Democrats acting like they have nothing to do with this development in their campaign. No. They have even the audacity to claim they have made progress. "Don't worry, America, we have got it all under control," they said. Even though crime has skyrocketed since they took office. As you can see here, in just 4 short years, it's shot up to an unbelievable 52%. But listen to this. In a recent talk show, a Democrat representative tried to deny reality after Emily Campano lay out the facts. Absolutely unbelievable. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's dive in.
Well, cut to today, where under the Harris-Biden administration, we have millions of illegal immigrants throughout the country, spikes in crime, the complete and utter erosion of the safety and protection of those people that are streaming across our border. So for someone that said that they are seeking amnesty for all, compassion, care, and the humane treatment of all, that has been sorely missed as a mark under her watch. And now there's an utter denial of the crisis, the utter crisis that has plagued the states along the border and all 50 that have unfortunately suffered because of those policies and the drugs streaming across. So the notion now that all of the blame lies with a prior administration, the notion that now we should trust her to actually take up the helm and support the Border Patrol, support the states that have sued her administration for failing to protect them, it's utter hypocrisy and it's not going to fly.
Well, that's how you prosecute a case. She should know. Former federal attorney. Marie Harf, you know, it's interesting because that subject hasn't come up in any substantive way at 3 days, and now we're into our 4th day of the DNC convention. Yet it's in a top 3, rocking that way for more than a year among Americans polled across the country. Why not?
Well, I expect we'll hear a little bit more about it this evening. At least I hope we will.
How about a lot
and if
more?
we just look at sheer numbers, well, there's a lot of issues to cover, and hopefully her speech is, 30 to 40 minutes. But on the actual numbers, border crossings are at their lowest point since Donald Trump was president. A lot of people have argued, with me on this show and elsewhere that it was too little too late and they waited too long to close the border. But the reality is they have now. And she has worked with those countries in Central and South America to try and address the root causes. And Democrats supported a bill that would have been the toughest immigration bill. That would have been the toughest immigration bill in decades that Donald Trump killed for political reasons.
They can still bring in 2,500 every day. That is not true.
Well, look, the numbers are the lowest they've been since Donald Trump was president. That is true. That's a fact. So if Donald Trump's going to go to the border and talk really tough and say a lot of things that are offensive and not true and not compassionate in any way for the situation, where they're actually taking steps to fix it. But the last thing I'll say is I do think it's a crisis, and I think a lot of Democrats think it's a crisis. And I think my party has to make a case for why we will continue to crack down on illegal immigration, because voters do care about, as we know.
You will never see the day when Democrats admit that uncontrolled illegal mass migration endangers the security of this country. No, instead they go after critics like rabid dogs, attacking anyone who simply points out the stats and warns that this situation is a ticking time bomb. So let's be clear, it's not the million of fortune seekers, tough. Unfortunately, some of them do see America as a prey, that are to blame. No, it's the fanatically ideologues who's completely out of touch with the reality. But listen to the next clip so nobody forgets what really happened when the Biden administration and Harris took over. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's keep going.
We have a former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, with us today, who also can prosecute a case. Kevin.
Well, what's shocking to me is right after they were sworn into office, a few months later, we watched the border explode because of their policies. The first thing they did on the day they were sworn in is stop finishing the wall. They literally took that equipment and hid it away. The other thing, when I went and toured the border in 2021, right after that, talking to the border agents, there's two things that picked up. When I interviewed the people who were coming over, they said they came over because Biden-Harris invited them to. Secondly, the border agents told us what they really found was terrorists on the watch list were coming over. I put this out in a press conference, and Ruben Gallegos, a congressman from Arizona, a border state, now the Democrat nominee for Senate in that state, challenged me and said I was lying. And what did we find out? Not only was I telling the truth, he never apologized, but we found just in the month of February that they caught more people on the terrorist watch list. And think how difficult it is to get on that list than we caught the entire 4 years under the Trump administration. So maybe they changed their behavior because they're running for office, but they already did so much damage to our country that if you go to the state of Massachusetts, their number one issue, where their Democratic governor actually has a state of emergency because of the southern border. In the city of New York, the number one issue is the border. And what you're finding throughout this entire nation, if there's less money in your city and you're far from the border because they're housing people that was flown into your city unbeknownst to you the night before, and you no longer have enough money for police or the parks or for the schools, this is because Kamala Harris was the czar of the border and failed in her job.
You know what's so ironic about all this? It's the left-wing self-righteous politicians who love to preach about social justice that end up hurting the very people they claim to want to help with their reckless policies. Tell me, who gets hit first by mass migration? It's the black community, the folks with low-skilled jobs. They are the one now stockfighting our resources, sinking deeper into economic hardship, not to mention dealing with skyrocketing inflation. And let me tell you, reality will always triumph over ideology, but sadly politicians like Kamala will never grasp that. They pretend to be empathic, but they don't have a clue what it's like when you can't find a place to live, when your kids are left without a school to attend, when the doctor's office is overcrowded, and when the streets are not longer safe. So don't believe them when they say everything is fine. Instead, listen to this.
So Marie says the official numbers have lessened. That is true. But here's what the official numbers do not include. Parolees, those leased into the interior of the United States, 1.9 million known gotaways. Our own Bill Malugin, who's actually at the border often, has talked about ICE being overwhelmed. So the official number doesn't tell the whole story. But let me say one thing. I was coming here and I was looking at a liberal network and I was reading what they had at the lower part of their screen. And it said star-studded convention. And that's true. Oprah stood behind me. Little John came out and surprised everyone. There are reports that Katy Perry will be here tonight. We just heard the Dixie Chicks sing. I guess they're called the Chicks now. There's been a lot of stars. But there's some names that haven't been mentioned. Laken Riley, a college girl who went for a run and lost her life. Rachel Morin, a mother of 5 who went for a run and lost her life. Jocelyn Ngari, a 12-year-old girl who went to the convenience store and lost her life. All by illegal immigrants, all preventable, all a result of the perilous, dangerous, and irresponsible Harris-Biden border policies. You don't need legislation. You need a pen, and you need the will. And Harris could not find it within herself for 3.5 years to go to Biden and say, pick up your pen, whip out 212F, sign this into law because another girl should not lose their life. It is inexcusable. It is disqualifying for the role of President of the United States.
And you know what's worst of all? Even as our streets become more dangerous, the Democrats want to strip away your rights to protect yourself with a firearm. But in the same time, they want to leave you defenseless while they left the wolves in. But enough of that. Let me know what you're thinking in the comments. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. And if you want to see who's going to change all this in the future, then you've got to check out the next video. J.D. Vance absolutely crushed it in a brilliant appearance that will blow your mind. Just click here and let the journey continue. Thank you for watching, and until the next time, ciao.